is a public institution, as are most in the Pac-10. Stanford is the exception, Southern Cal as well. But it's a public institution. Now, how is it, and so as a public institution, all the facts, figures, and data supposedly are supposed to be open to the public, the taxpayers, you and I and others. Where does privatization get into this? I am assuming you're talking about intercollegiate athletics being viewed as a private operation.
Well, for instance, the legacy gift was given to the U of O athletic department.
By Phil Knight.
Right. And the arena, the money that's to be spent on the arena is required to do a no-bid contract. Okay, now that's something a private entity would do, because a public school would have to have open bidding and get other firms, maybe more local firms instead of just Portland firms, involved in the project.
Now this $100,000 legacy gift.
$100 million.
Or $100 million legacy gift. As I said, he's a generous donor.
Right.
But the legacy gift from Phil Knight has enabled him to have the university and the state ignore the open bidding procedure?
Right. And in my view, if you say you're building a $250 million arena and you're giving it to certain firms, I think there's a good chance you could build the same arena for half of that if you had competition. But since these two main firms, Eller Beckett and TVA Architects, since they get to call the shots, there is no competition, there is no bidding, and so you pay an inflated price.
You did not say, but it's an obvious inference that I can make, and maybe you don't have the proof for it, and we should say so, but you didn't say that Phil Knight and the architect and the builders are linked in some way. Because the suspicion would have to be, well, these are the ones he chose, and he wants them to get paid real well, and it's not going to be an open bidding situation. Why no open bidding?
Well, there's a number of things happening here. Okay, Nike just built its Leica campus. Okay, that's for film. I think it's in Tualatin. Nike built its main campus. It used the same
techniques,
firm, TVA, to do both. So this is a firm that builds Nike campuses.
Well, so there's a clear link there, not that we can in any way say, and so Nike profits in this way or whatever, but one has to again make that inference because they insist that the university go counter to the open bidding procedure so that the people that they want there will build.
Well, not only that, but if you have a lot of opposition, most people are vehemently opposed to the project. What happened, though, about a year ago was we had an architecture professor named Mark Gillum.
At the University of Oregon.
And
Mark Gillum?
Mark Gillum.
All right.
And he decided to be the new chairperson for the neighborhood.
Is he from the neighborhood too?
He lives in the neighborhood.
Okay.
He's also had classes which explored building a new neighborhood around the arena that would be, pretty high-end mixed-use development, also known in the past as the Walnut Node. The point is right now he's able to help enable the arena and sign off on plans with the university and the city's lawyers in closed-door meetings in Johnson Hall and still be associated with the university. And so he has a major conflict of interest. And I think when the neighborhood allowed him to be chair, they didn't realize...
Professor Gillum has this conflict of interest.
They didn't realize what they were getting into. And so our new city manager even took part in these closed-door meetings at Johnson Hall where this memo of understanding was signed, and that led to an expediting of the conditional use permit being granted. And so it's a very troubling relationship certain professors, they're usually architecture professors, get into when they're growing the university and then claiming to represent the neighborhood. Most people who were opposed in the Fairmount neighborhood who went to meetings and tried to speak to it were really blocked off the agenda. And so that the Fairmount neighbors are run in such a tight way where there's never any time for the opposing voices. And so it's really kind of a top-down neighborhood infiltration problem.
You know, our guest, Zach Vishanoff, is someone that I said has insights and the ability to express them in terms of university policy and university history. And I think he's demonstrated already in the program as we've gone through this. This is not someone talking off the top of his head, complaining about this, having his prejudices this way or that way. This is a man, you are, Zach, someone who has followed these issues pretty closely. Now, when you talk about closed-door operations at the university, being a public institution, I say to myself, I remember a time when the state auditor complained, after he had issued a report, that, you know, there's the U of O Foundation, we're not allowed to look at those books and evaluate them. And I thought to myself at the time, what makes the U of O Foundation or any part of the university free of the auditing review of the state? Now, do you feel that this is consistent with what seems to me a very out-of-balance operation out of, frankly, it's the president's, Dave Fronmeyer's office. You know, Dave is retiring. He wants to leave a wonderful legacy. The question is, the way the economy is going and the way he has given complete freedom to varsity athletics, his legacy may be something he may not be too proud of. But why is it that we don't have this opportunity to get the information from the auditor and others about the foundation?
Well, I think it was designed that way. That's how they can do the no-bid contracting. That's how they can keep the demands of the donor private. And so essentially the foundation is a tool that enables eventually complete privatization of the university.
But it's, yes, so that's going completely contrary to what the institution is and it was founded to be. And that is a public institution with open records. Now I can understand when you're making a pitch to a potential donor that you want to do everything you can to encourage that donor to give the money, the moolah. And if some of this means keeping secret this or that, your chances of getting that donor to give are better. It is really too doggone bad that if we can't get it. This information needs to be out if this is a public institution. And if the donor is not going to give his money or her money, well, so be it.
Well, there was an interesting example the other day because OHSU got a $100 million check.
The health system in Portland.
Yeah, and it was all across the papers of how wonderful it is we're going to cure cancer.
From Knight.
Right. About 3 days later, in the back of the Register Guard, there was a small article where OHSU was complaining that they're still broke and they're in trouble. And that article was buried, but it shows how you can get this huge gift, but if there's so much secrecy attached and so many strings attached and so many conditions that it may be not useful in keeping your entity or your university moving. And
absolutely. I mean, that's why open information laws, at least for public affairs and public institutions, are essential. And we've seen how, I mean, we can equate it with the federal administration that we've lived under the last 8 years. Bush and Cheney and company have done their best to replicate what we're seeing in a smaller scale here at the University of Oregon under an otherwise good president, but David Fronmeyer and others. They're doing the same thing that this most rotten administration in the history of the United States has been doing in Washington.
Well, I call it the solution in search of a problem scenario, where the Iraq War was this kind of a solution to a non-existent problem. Same with replacing Mac Court. Mac Court is a well-loved facility. It's still affordable to fans. It's on the main campus. So as an expansion project, well, we have this big solution. We have no problem, but let's, get the media to enable it. And through oversimplification and just a kind of a herd mentality, they've all kind of tried to rush it